Hey everyone, it's Jack, and today I'm going to take a look at PCLinuxOS. This is a spin that's available in KDE, Mate, and XFCE, and it's also non-systemd. So this looks like a really interesting spin here. So I just can't resist the opportunity to look at it. The one desktop I'm particularly interested in is the Mate desktop. We have the KDE spin and the XFCE, but Mate, well, that's kind of a desktop that I don't give enough love to. I know I've done lots of videos on KDE and XFCE and of course GNOME and all these other ones, but Mate is one that I don't do very often, and it is actually right up there with one of my favorite desktops. It looks like a really interesting spin here. Here on the Mate download page, it is showing what the ISO comes with, and it's got the kernel 5.8 series, the Mate Desktop 1.24.1, and LibreOffice 7, and then all kinds of great stuff in here pre-installed, like the Timeshift backup and restore, raw therapy, photo manipulation, GIMP, Megasync. That's interesting. AnyDesk, that's like a VPN. It also looks very interesting. Kodi, wow, a multimedia center, and we got Kazam for screen capture, LibreOffice. If you're an ebook writer, you might find Calibre actually quite interesting. And then we got HomeBank, which is a banking software. That's kind of cool. Don't think I ever took a look at that. And then of course much more like Firefox, Thunderbird, Strawberry Music Player, and VLC Video Player installed by default. And then it goes on to show that Mate 64 features the basic UEFI, systemd free. You don't have to pay for it. No, I'm just kidding. It means it's not using systemd. And also we got Grub2 by default. And of course Mate, being light on resources, only requires about 2 gigs of RAM minimum, and a 64-bit processor, of course. Very few requirements here. And then we have our download links down here as well. And also, every so often I hear people kind of debate about the name. You get people out there sometimes that are saying, it ain't pronounced Mate, you moron. It's mate. Can't you see the word? M-A-T-E. M-A-T-E spells mate. Do you see any funky characters in there? Nope. It's mate. Yeah, I know what you're saying. And, you know, that's kind of a valid argument. However, if you happen to jump out to matedesktop.org, the official Mate website, scroll down to the bottom, you'll notice here, where does the name come from? The name M-A-T-E, pronounced Mate, there it is. Mate comes from yerba mate, a series of holly native to the subtropical South America. Its leaves contain caffeine and are used to make infusions and a beverage called mate. So there you have it. It's official. It's called mate. So that should eliminate any questions there. Also, this very same thing is noted in the About box as well. So I think they've made it pretty clear how the name is actually supposed to be pronounced, even though it looks like mate. And, yeah, you know, it's...
Oh, get on with it already, you silly twit!
Ow! Man, that... Hey, wait a minute. What? Was I just knighted? Whoa. I'm right up there with those other famous people now. Cirrhosis of liver, sirloin of beef, saran of wrap. Wow! Yeah, I better get on with it. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and download the image, load it in, and I'll be right back. And there's our PCLinuxOS splash screen. Okay, here we are at our keyboard screen, and oh, I think my pointed head's in the way. I better do a little magic. There we go. That ought to do the trick. So, had to get out of the way there. So we're at the keyboard screen. I'm going to go ahead and hit next because that chose the correct keyboard by default. And I think this is going to boot into a live environment, I believe. And there it is. Yes. So here we go. And this is looking nice right off the get-go. Wow. I kind of like this theme already. It's got this, not sure quite what that theme is there. It's kind of a metallic looking color scheme here with the gradients and all that. Very nice right off the bat. And here we got our, I think that's our Kaja. Yes, it is. So let's get right down to business and install this guy and check it all out. So I'm going to hit the Install Me icon here, and that brings up the PCLinuxOS installation wizard. I'm going to go and hit Next. And here we have our options for setting up our hard drive. And I'm just going to go and use the existing partitions. Actually, I'm going to just erase and use the entire disk. Just let it start from scratch. Now it's going to tell me all existing partitions and their data will be lost. Oh no, that's okay. Nothing on there that I need. So now it's going to go and compute the total size. And then it's going to press Next. And it's got this really big, scary looking warning thing on here to let you know that everything I selected is going to be wiped out. So if you got any important data, it's probably a good idea to back it up or not do it. This will erase everything. I'm going to go ahead and hit Next. And it formatted everything pretty quickly. And now it's installing. Wow, that was quick. So I'm going to let it do its thing here. And then I'll be back right after it's done. Okay, I guess it did get away from me there. Didn't. So I thought it went directly into an install there. But it didn't. So let's carry on then. We have our bootloader. So by default, it's going to load in grub2. Then we have our main options. And it even allows us to set our boot delay right off the bat. By default, it's 10 seconds. I really like that. I don't see that. I don't think I've ever seen that before. So if I want a quick boot up, I could just change that to, say, 1. And let it go. And that way it'll only display the default boot menu at startup for 1 second. Very cool. Let's see what's under advanced. So this would be our bootloader main options here. And I think we would want to just stick with those by default. And I'm going to hit Next. And it's using the grub2 with a graphical menu. If you don't want the graphics and you just want text, then you can choose text as well. So now it's showing us our default kernel here, which is 15.14.16, and that's really nice. And if you hit the selection here, you can also have it boot to the recovery mode by default if you wanted to, but I think I would just leave it right where it is. And then you can even modify working with boot parameters. You can come down here and do some fancy doctoring, and then you're good to go. Really like the idea that it gives you all these different options that you can edit here. Even has a probe for an OS, so it'll look for any other OSs that you might have on your system, like Windows or OS 10 or something like that. So with that checked, it'll kind of look for it, and I'm assuming that it'll probably give you some kind of option where you can do dual boot as well. And then we have this advanced menu here where you can set up your video mode by default. And I believe this is for your boot up. I think probably 800 by 600 is pretty good for your splash screen and all that. But if you want to change it, you can just come in here and just select some other options. I'm just going to go ahead and leave it at the default right now. And really all we have to do is just go straight to finish. You didn't really have to look at all this, but I recommend just kind of leaving everything at its default. We'll hit Next here. And now it's installing the bootloader. So this is a pretty quick install overall. I'm pretty impressed so far. And this installer looks like it's called Drac Live Install. Nice. All right, so that was really quick. Very fast install. I'm going to hit finish, remove the flash drive, and then I'm going to reboot like right now. Well, that was a mistake. I just blew past those options. That was pretty dumb. Well, anyways, I'll put my real name in here. I don't know what I was thinking. I guess I thought it was booting back to the image again, but it wasn't. It's just completing the setup here. So I think I'll have to change my time zone because it looked like it defaulted to Central. But luckily I didn't blow past this part, which it probably wouldn't have let me anyway. I'm going to put in a name here. How about Jack? And then a password. Then we have advanced settings here. And if you went in here, you could set up a user ID and group ID as well. I'm just going to go with the default just to keep everything simple. And you can even choose an icon. Looks like you can do it right from here. Nice. And I kind of like that right off the bat. So now if I click this, I believe I can just log right in. So I'm logged in. I set up my resolution here. I think I paused my video by mistake while recording. So anyways, I got xrandr all set here, parameters. Now I'm full screen again. That's good. Let's see if HTOP is installed. It is. Wow, check that out. Look at those resource usages. 357 megabytes. That's great. Wow. Really impressive right off the bat here at idle. I'm really liking that so far. And I'm just going to Control C out of HTOP. And let's explore real quick. So we got our bar down here. Pretty traditional look. We got our applications. I think if I click on that, yes, we got a menu for our applications. And we have our places here, which will take us directly into our file manager, into any one of these folders. So if I wanted to go directly into downloads, I can just hit that. And there we go. And then of course, Jack is my home directory, and that's where all our base folders are, like documents and desktop, templates, temp, videos, music, pictures. Nice, really good. So I think I'll minimize that real quick and just do a quick explore here on the bar. So after systems, then we have some applications pinned into our bar, such as the file manager, Kaja, which we just had open, and then a shortcut to our terminal and our control center, which we're going to have a look at in just a second. And I see Synaptic is on here right away. That's nice. Really like Synaptic, so that's excellent. Glad to see that. Then we have Firefox browser. And on the other end, and of course here we have our window list showing our open applications down here. And on the other end, we got our clipboard manager, our volume control, and then we have our network settings here. So if I right click on that, it kind of shows us our settings, and we can go in there and edit connections if we have to for some reason. And then our clock and calendar, if we click on that, it brings up a calendar right there. Really nice, very cool. And then of course, if you want to, and we click on that again to close it. And then of course, if you want to add anything, we can just right click here, add to panel, and then we can add more things. For example, if you want to have a brightness adjuster, you can do that there. You can change your type of menu to a classic, which that could be too, I'm not sure. And then one thing I like to have on this is show desktop. So I'm going to click that, click add, and close it. Then we can simply right click on this guy, select move, and then just drag it down where you want it. I think I'm going to put it down here on the end. Yeah, I thought I could drag that all the way to the end, but I guess I can't. So I'll just stick it right about there. That looks like a good spot. That way I have show desktop available when I need quick access to it. Very cool. So let's see what kind of apps we got right off the bat. So if we go under here, under more applications, we got our HTOP here, CPUX, our Mate system monitor terminal. We can open the terminal as root, which I always like that option. Plank, power statistics, and xkill in case you gotta kill a rogue process. Always good to have. Let's see CPUX. Wow. So here it's giving us a lot of information on our CPU. That's very cool. Nice. So we could run the daemon if we wanted to. We got our cache settings for the CPU, even the motherboard. Very cool. And then our system information. So that's a really nice utility to have in here We even have our graphics information. That's a powerful little utility, even on a virtual setup. Then here's our archiving info and time shift for our backup and so forth. And then configure, lots of configuration settings here. Configure your computer, your printer, editor, menu editor, Mate tweak, network manager, NTFS configuration tool, plank settings, redo bootloader. That's very cool. So if you're having trouble with your bootloader, you can hit that guy and it'll reset it and reinstall it for you. And wireless regulatory domain configurator tool. Wow, that sounds important. Then we have our Pluma editor, and Pluma has just recently received an update, so it's got a lot of nice, stronger features in it, and I guess there's a lot of plugins available. So Pluma looks like a really very cool text editor. Haven't worked with it a lot, but from what I read about what's new on it, I was pretty impressed. Then we have our file tools and DD copy for burning ISO images to a USB drive. Really nice. That must be a GUI front end to the command line. I've only seen the DD command line, which I've used for burning, but apparently this is a GUI front end for it. I like the fact that they've added so many cool things here. Then we have our MyLive USB, which is probably an even easier way to burn an image to your USB. Then we have IO Riot software. I think that's Solitaire. And we have graphics. So by default, we have Eye of Mate image viewer. We have GIMP installed, Mate color selection, random background, take screenshot. Nice. And then for our internet app, very cool. We have AnyDesk, which is a VPN client and server. So you can connect to another computer, I believe, that's also running AnyDesk, and connect to it just like you would using a remote desktop connection or a VPN software. Then we have FileZilla FTP client. Nice to see that there as well. Firefox by default. Then we got Megasync cloud storage and NitroShare, which is a file transfer application, which also is cloud-based as well, I believe. And Megasync is very cool. That's something I got a long time ago. And haven't been in there for years, but a great little service. It's free, you get free storage, and of course you can pay for premium. I really like to see that app there. That's nice. I just might have to dig into my Megasync again. And then Thunderbird email client. That's nice to see on there. And then a Zoom client. Very cool for video conferencing. Liking to see that there too. Then we have our Atrial document viewer, which is good for PDF files. A character map, I like that. It's good to have character maps. And I don't see that on a lot of installs for some reason. And I think the character map is just a really cool, nice thing to have here. You never know when you're going to need to access an upper ASCII character for some reason and want to be able to copy it into a document or into something. So I really like that. That's great. And if you're a programmer and you're kind of working low level or even assembly, that's really nice too. But there's a lot of applications that you can use that for if you're kind of a geek. And then our software center and Synaptic is by default. I see we got VirtualBox installed by default too. That's really nice to see. And then we have our sound apps here, Dead Beef and Pithos and sound settings. Then we have Spotify, nice. Video downloader, also nice, very cool. So I'm wondering if that's the video downloader plugin that you usually would install with Firefox. That could be noteworthy. Let me just open up Firefox real quick. Okay, so we have Firefox open, and yeah, I guess it's not related to the plugin. So it must be a separate application. Cool. Let me just open that up real quick. So apparently we can just pop a URL in here and download a video. That's intriguing. Why don't I just jump out to YouTube here and find a test video and just see if it works. Because I know in the past, to get a video off your browser, you kind of go and download a plugin, and then you got to get a companion app for it, and then get it in there. So let's try something that's not streaming, like Tom and Jerry. Nice.
BB Hoopster, the fast
So supposedly, if I take this URL here, copy that, maybe pause the ad, and then paste it in here, hit download, and it looks like it's working. Wow. I'll have to come back to that when it's done downloading and see if it actually worked. That's pretty cool. I'm liking that. And since we're in Firefox, let's take a look at our version. It should be the latest version, I would think. And it is. We're at 94.0.1, which I believe is the latest version as of the time of this video. Glad to see that. And in our terminal, let's run a NeoFetch real quick and see if that's installed. And let's install that real quick. I think this is Debian based, so I'm going to just hit sudo apt install NeoFetch. Might have to update first. Oh yes, sudo not found, that's right. This is a non-systemd system. And wow, I see the graphics is in there. So it looks like it's got it all downloaded. So let me just come back to the NeoFetch thing real quick, and let's pursue this a little bit more. Oh, I see the status is downloading. So there we go. And we can open download location. I like that. Makes it convenient. And there it is. Wow. How cool is that? And so it installed by default to your downloads folder and then a subfolder called video downloads. Video downloader. We'll just hit allow. So there it is. It worked beautifully. I like that. That's a really cool utility. Just to have, well, that hurt. Just to have right out of the box like that. That is nice. I'm really impressed so far. Wow. This has really got me saying, really cool. So now we know the video downloader works. That is great. And let's take a look at our Synaptics. And this is actually one of the best software packages, I think, on a Debian / Ubuntu type distro. Very nice. And while I'm thinking about it, let's try NeoFetch again. So I'm jumping all over the place, aren't I? So anyways, no sudo because we are in PCLinuxOS. I'm going to go in as su instead. Now I think in the forums or somewhere on the PCLinuxOS site, somewhere in there, they do explain why there's no sudo, and that's because they don't want it in there. And their position on that is that sudo allows a regular user to have full root privileges, and that is viewed as a security risk, which I think is a pretty valid reason. So I'm going in as su, and my root account is the same as the user account on here, so I can just jump right in. And now I'm going to do an apt install NeoFetch. And actually I should probably do an apt update first, but let's do that. And it looks like it's going out to some FTP servers in the Netherlands. NL, I believe, is for Nederland. So that's kind of cool. And now let's go back and try to install NeoFetch again. And I could have used the Synaptics for that if I wanted to. I typically use the console whenever I do an install on software. I just think it's faster, quicker, more efficient. But everybody has their own taste. And Synaptic is actually just a GUI front end for the console, which is one of the reasons I like it so much, I guess, because it's very quick. It's not loading things down with a lot of bloat and images, although sometimes the bloat and images and descriptions are pretty nice. So yeah, it's, all personal taste. Now that I got that installed, we should be able to run it. There we go. So there's our Neo Fetch. And it's showing that we're running the 5.14.16 kernel. Very good, very cutting edge. We got the Mate 1.26 desktop and our different themes and all the good stuff there. Nice to see. All right. And then our Synaptics looks like it's all pretty much working well. Not even sure what I would add, but if I wanted to do a quick search in here, like for Inkscape, not that I've ever searched for that before. We got Inkscape. And I need to hit reload, I think. I don't think it ever really loaded the packages in. There we go. Always a good thing to do the first time you boot in. And you can see the newest version of Inkscape is here, 1.1.1. Very nice to see. And that's a vector-based drawing program, of course. So if I wanted to install that, all I'd have to do is mark for installation with a right click, hit mark, apply, and apply. And there we go. Downloading and installing our Inkscape. And that should show up here under graphics once it's installed. And that's all there is to it. Complete. Go to graphics and there we go. We got our Inkscape. Easy peasy. Loving it. And again, the newest version. And so I think this is based on Debian, maybe Debian unstable or testing. Not really sure, but everything seems to be very cutting edge, including the kernel. I didn't find anything on the website that was specific about that, but PCLinuxOS really is impressing me a lot so far here. And it seems to be very snappy and rock stable. I am really liking this. Very responsive, and you can feel it when you run it. I'm going to jump out of Firefox and open up our control center. Let's have a look at that real quick. So this is our PCLinuxOS control center here. Kind of has a kind of a classic feel to it. That's kind of neat. So here we have our software management, which I think will take us right to Synaptics. Then our sharing settings, network services, really set up nice, especially if you're an IT guy and you're trying to get something set up in a network environment. Very good. Managing your hardware here. So that's a utility that I think will probably look for drivers for you, especially if you need things that maybe might be proprietary. That would probably be double helpful. So like for your video card, and of course I'm just running a VirtualBox adapter here, so it's not really going to be helpful, but a really good start there. Nice. Then we have our system settings here for authentication, localization, admin tools. Here's where you can manage your users. Very cool. Open console as administrator. Import Windows documents and settings. Nice. That's a very interesting utility. And here, this is kind of giving us higher level access for modifying a user. So this is actually a control center here more for administration. So this is probably a little bit more for the advanced users, managing your partitions, security and firewall settings, and setting up your boot. Very nice. So I'm going to jump out of there. For the rest of us mortals, you can go in here to applications. So if we go into configuration, here we got Mate Tweak. And this is probably going to be a little bit more tailored to what most people would use. Here we can tweak our desktop settings. And right now it's showing our computer, home folder, trash, and mounted volumes here, all on the desktop, which are checked. And of course you can uncheck these, or if you don't want icons at all, you can uncheck the top box and it'll remove all your icons. So you even have that option. Then down here you got your panel settings, and by default we're using the GNOME 2 look down here. And then we got different features on here. Our show applications, places, and systems, which is really hard to see right now, probably because of the theme. So I'm going to leave that open just real quick. Come back up here and find that spot where we do our theme settings. Let's go to System. And I think we want to go into Preferences here, maybe. Yeah, there we go. That's better. Okay, just barking up the wrong tree. So here we got our hardware settings. Yeah, this is actually more for the average user, I think, whereas the administration has and the control center more advanced features. But here under hardware, you can set your display settings, keyboard, mouse, power management, things like that, and then your sound settings here. Then we got our network, and then our look and feel, which was what I was actually kind of looking for. And right now we're in Mate Tweak, but if we go to Appearance, we can bring this up and change our theme. And then the other option, under Other, you can configure your computer, login photo, and Plank settings. Nice. So you can actually activate Plank in here too if you want it to look more like a Mac. You can have Plank down here and maybe your bar up on top, or you could put leave the panel on the bottom and put Plank on top or on the sides. Let's check out some of these looks here. So this is your overall theme. That's kind of nice looking there, the blue. And if we come down here, we got some darker colors like the Adwaita Dark. Cool. I'm liking that. That looks pretty neat, actually. And then we got this guy, which is the Black Mate. Nice. Let me just open up the file manager so we can kind of see the changes reflected there as well. So we got our green folders up here right now. Then we got Blue Submarine. Cool. So really great looks here. I think I'm just going to pop into Adwaita Dark again. And notice the rounded corners here on the side. Very nice. I like the rounded corners. That's a great effect. And then we have our fonts interface and backgrounds for setting up, changing a background. So if we just click something here like that guy, or one of these blurred settings, actually it looks like stars. I think I might go with something like that for now. Or maybe this. Or this. And back on our theme here, if we go to Customize, we can tweak this even farther with changing our control settings here for our buttons and change the look of our buttons. We can come up here to icons and change our icons. So if you don't want these icons with the dark theme, we can go down here and maybe put these things dark, if I'm pronouncing that right. Or we got a Menta look there, which is kind of more of a greenish, and then that'll lighten the color a bit. So we can change our icons here, and I kind of like the blue look there. I think that looks great. And then our pointer, if you think that pointer is a little too big or too much, you can go ahead with a smaller one with that. And of course you can also change the size of your pointer. So if you like this style, I guess you can't change that one, but you can change this one. So you can actually make that bigger if you like. So a nicer tweak. And then of course your font settings and your interface. And I kind of like sort directories first in my file manager, so I'm going to go with that as well. And if you want to install anything new, and so here's our window border. If you want to change the window border, like for example, if you like the green submarine, but you want the dark look, then you can set your window border up here as green submarine. And now you got the different look. That kind of looks pretty good with the dark, actually. So all kinds of choices. Mate is really very configurable. And then of course you got your install, so you can install packages that you download off the internet. That's something like matelook.org. So very configurable. And I'm thinking this is a really fun distro to play with. This is something I could enjoy getting in here and tweaking for quite a while. I could probably make a hobby out of this all by itself. And then of course in your add to panel, anything else, you got all kinds of choices in here to add lots of things. And that's another thing I like, is the wide variety of choices that you can just pop on here. And of course you can remove things on here that you don't want or need also. Weather report is another one that I really like. We could even add that in there and close it. And then we can come down on the weather report, right click, hit preferences, and maybe change our wind speed to miles per hour. And then just pop in a location like Naples, Florida. Like Tampa, Florida. Okay, not so much for the search there. But if we go to North America, US, maybe I gotta click on US and then just type something in there like Tampa. Nope. So yeah, I guess you really gotta kind of use the menu. And so you can choose and pick your state and then find a city like Naples. There we go. That's better. And select the airport. Naples Municipal. Hit enter. And now we can see it down below. And maybe that was down below before and I was just focusing too much on the find thing. So it might have been changing here in the bar all along. So yeah, okay, little something you got to get used to. And then when you hit that, of course, it'll give you the current conditions, which right now it's a balmy 82 degrees with scattered clouds. And then it's got a forecast in here so you can kind of read it out in text form. I like that. I think that's really cool. That's really neat. And it looks like a 5-day forecast, so very impressive. And then our updating button if you need to update that. So I gotta tell you, this is an awesome distro here. This is something I could use as a daily driver and be totally functional and really happy with it. In fact, this looks just like a fun desktop all the way around, and it seems super stable. Obviously, it's based on Debian, and it's got the latest and greatest software available, so you're not left behind. So to me, it's kind of like having the best worlds. You got the Debian stability with the latest stuff that you can install, and you're not tied down with Snap like you have in Ubuntu. A lot of people don't like Snap. I don't mind it that much. I think it's okay, but there's a lot of people that complain about the whole Snap thing, which is a whole different debate, I suppose. However, you're Snap free here, System D free here. So absolutely, I think PCLinuxOS deserves a double thumbs up. Absolutely. Again, this is something I would definitely use as a daily driver. It's snappy and could easily be one of my favorite desktops, I think. It's got all the coolness and lightweightedness of XFCE, and yet somehow it seems to be more. And you know, somebody, I think it was Mustafa, had commented a couple of weeks ago about XFCE and Mate, how well they work together. And if you do a Mate install and then install XFCE4 and the XFCE goodies packages together, your XFCE is even more enhanced because of all the Mate stuff that's installed as well on the system. So that's a little bit of food for thought. I like that, and he's absolutely right. I've done that. I put Mate alongside XFCE and did improve the experience a lot. So there you have it. I hope this review was helpful, and if it was, don't forget to leave that thumbs up and hit subscribe. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.